Yo, family, listen up, listen up, listen up, listen to me. Look, everyone talks about mental health now, but let's be honest. For a long time, people didn't even discuss the word mental health, right? We never talked about it, especially in communities where toughness is expected. Like if you was an athlete, you was military, law enforcement, or just in the firing community. It was this taboo. We don't even discuss it, right? But today we want to have a real conversation about mental health. And not from a clinical perspective, but more from a human perspective, right? Because the reality is everyone deals with stress, pressure, trauma, or even something heavier or deeper at some point in their life. So the question becomes, when does normal life turn into something deeper? So today we're going to talk about mental health, mental illness, stigmas about mental health, and what's some warning signs that we can pick up on. But the most important, what can we do if you're dealing with mental health or a loved one is dealing with mental health, what's some resources that's out there for you to get better? Because this is a pop culture podcast and this is a conversation I think a lot of people need to hear. So let's get into it. Yo, what up, though, everybody? Look, I got my homegirl on here today, Dr. Rebecca. Miss Dr. Rebecca, usually on the Pop Culture 223 podcast, we talk about we talk about we try to educate the uneducated, like give game to the ones that need it. And usually we talking about training, we talking about awareness, we talk about shooting, we just talk about a lot of different things. And we talk about like self-awareness, being healthy, being committed to training, all kind of weird stuff. I mean, not weird stuff, but all kind of stuff. So today I wanted to really talk to you about like having getting the mind together, because we talk about, the firearm is just a tool, but it's all about the person. And since in your expertise is, Dr. Rebecca, it's weird to call you doctor, but you put that work in. So you a doctor. So I got a doctor on here today, everybody. Dr. Rebecca, and we're going to talk about mental health issues, and we're going to try to break down some stigmas about mental health. And I didn't know it was like mental health and mental health illness. I just thought it was just mental health, right? Because you know how you call your homie, just doing a mental health check. It's kind of like after COVID, everybody was calling, checking on people because we
Right.
was in the house locked up, and it was just a lot of stuff going through people's mind. People were dropping like flies left and right, and that was just the whole thing. So some of my homies called me. I ain't gonna say some of my home. Everybody checked on everybody, but one cool thing about that scenario was my homeboy, my brother, Foot had called, and he kind of started a Bible study like I don't know if it was Tuesday, but we just started, getting together, just talking, in the Bible, and it was just helping me get through. That helped me get through that situation, that COVID, because we was locked down. But it was
Yeah.
just a mental health thing. It was like a mental health check. And you hear all the time about how people say, go check on your family, just
Hmm.
call and check and just ask like how you doing today and all that. So today we were here to break down some stigmas and just jump into the mental health aspect of the person.
Yeah.
So let the audience know who you are and your title, doctor. Tell them all that good stuff, so they know you official, you certified. I ain't just got some random, what I'm saying, up on here. So go ahead.
Yes, sir. Well, what up, though? So
Ah,
my name is
official. Detroit. We up. What up, though? What up, though?
official. We official. Yes. So I am Dr. Rebecca Montgomery. I have a PhD, and I also have a master's in counseling. And I am the owner and operator. I'm sorry, of Dove's Heart Counseling LLC. I have two locations, one in Detroit and one in Ann Arbor. And I'm here to help. Let's break this down.
Hey, you and forever gonna be no. Listen, you forever have a spot on the podcast. So if you ever want to come in here and share something, or we gonna have like Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, we got Dr. Rebecca on here to kick it.
Let's
So
do
look,
it. Let's
um,
do it.
people throw around the word mental health or mental health check, and well, like what I didn't know it was a difference between you got mental health and you got mental health illness. So let's start there. So what's break the two down.
Perfect place to start. Okay, so mental health, that's what we aspire. That's what we want. We want to be healthy. We want to be emotionally, mentally, physically healthy. So that means, like you mentioned, your friends checking in on you. So you had a good support system. You want, mental clarity, things like that. Mental health is what we aspire to get to. Now, mental illness, however, now I know that's a loaded term for some people, but we're going to break this down. It's very common. It's much more common than people realize because it's so much stigma attached to the term mental illness. But let's just say your physical health. We have all experienced some type of, you know, little sniffles and you're sick, right? That's the same thing with mental illness. You could be a little bit sick or you could be a lot of bit sick. You can have a common cold or you can have cancer, right? You can have situational depression or you can be more on the severe side of like schizophrenia or something like that. So that's the difference. We want mental health. Mental illness is what happens to us for various reasons.
So okay, so that's a so do people walk around? So when if I say, look, what's the like the decide or what puts somebody over the hill to say, okay, now your mental health has turned into something else. Now it's a mental illness. Like, what is that? What does that look like?
So mental illness can be anything from, like I said, situational depression, which that can be anything like, oh, I lost my job and I'm worried about how I'm going to pay my bills. I'm a little depressed because I don't have any money. And then once you get the job, that depression goes away, right? So that is situational depression. While you are in that stage of depression, that is considered mental illness. That means you are mentally or emotionally unwell. So anybody and everybody, I think everybody walking this planet has been mentally ill at some point. And I will say that there is a range, right? So there's mild, there's moderate, there's severe, and there's persistent. So the mild and moderate would be like, again, you going through a breakup, you and your girl, y'all fighting and your feelings hurt and things like that. That is a type of like mild mental illness, right? Because you're a little depressed, you're a little sad. If it goes away on its own, that's fine, but that is still considered mentally unwell or emotionally unwell. When we start getting to some more of the other things that I hope we get to talk about today, where we get to the severe and persistent side, those are more, they require a little more. You might have to go see a therapist like myself. You might have to take some medication. You might be hospitalized, depending on where you are on this spectrum: mild, moderate, severe, persistent. The treatment and the outcome is different.
So what's some of the stigmas around mental health, especially in the black community? Because you know, in our community, like, hey, go talk to the pastor, or go talk to go talk to the deacon, or go talk to this. And sometimes you ain't trying to hear. I mean, you want to hear the word, but you ain't. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You need something else. Because
Understood. I'm glad you brought that up because your faith and your treatment are not separate. Like you can do both. But just like if you had heart disease and you went to your pastor and you said, Pastor, I done went to the doctor and they said I have heart disease. Your pastor's gonna tell you, take your medication, see your doctor, and pray. Right?
hmm
So same thing with our mental health. Like we can go talk to our pastor and we can pray. And actually praying is a really good it's a type of meditation, right? Because we take our mind off of the thing that's bothering us and we put it on, you know, our higher power, our being, our Lord that can actually do something about it, right? So it's actually a type of treatment, it's a type of meditation. So, stigma. Let's talk about stigma for a second. So stigma basically, essentially, if we could put it in plain terms, is just fear, right? We're afraid that if somebody finds out that we are mentally ill, that, they're gonna judge us or, we're gonna be labeled like crazy or something like that. There is a stigma that, we think that people are gonna maybe discriminate against us or something like that because we have a mental illness, we have mental distress. So we need to normalize mental illness, right? Because just like I said, everybody walking this planet has experienced some type of mental distress before, even babies. Babies get stressed out. Mama leave the room, they start crying. Mama come back in the room, they okay, right? Again, we talking about that spectrum: mild, moderate, severe, and persistent. It can be mild depression that just lasts for a few days and it's gone, or lasts for a few months. But everybody has experienced some type of mental illness or mental distress or emotional distress. Period. So let's just get that off the table. People think that it only impacts certain people. It does not. Everybody.
So why do you think so many people? Well, I guess the you saying people hesitate to tell or talk. Well, how can one know that if they're in having a bad mental health issue, or just
Mhm.
stress, or like I'm on my way to like mental illness? Like I need to, because I hear, not what's his name, uh the Breakfast Club guy. He always talk about he go talk to a his therapist, and he said he think
Mhm.
all black men need to go talk to a therapist, go talk to
I
somebody to get
agree.
stuff off their chest. But just what does that look like? Because okay, I'm sitting here depressed
Mhm.
today. I'm sitting here depressed tomorrow. But how does that, like, what is the next? Okay, I need to go see somebody. I need to go talk to somebody professionally. Like,
Yeah.
when does that become? Okay, I'm depressed for 2 days. This is the third day. Shit, I need to go see somebody on Monday. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
how does that look?
So, okay, first let's talk about like the signs, and then we'll talk about how you know you need to seek help. So, there's like emotional signs, and all this stuff is inward, right? So the world doesn't know yet that you are in some type of emotional or mental distress. The world doesn't know because it's inward. So you might feel sad, you might feel a little anxious, or you might feel depressed, and then and it starts there. You notice like, man, I'm just not feeling well. Sometimes there's physical signs of distress, which could be like a headache or a stomach ache, or you're feeling like really exhausted and tired all the time, and you really don't know why. There's no real reason as to why you feel that way, right? There's some cognitive signs, which you might feel a little confused, or your concentration is off, like you're reading something, you keep reading the same thing over and over again when normally you're able to zip through your work or whatever assignments you're doing. You feel distracted really easily, or you feel literally disconnected from reality, because sometimes people get to that point where their reality and it's just you are completely disconnected from the world.
Well, shit, that sound like me every other
but
day.
but
I mean,
it's
that sound like just an
true.
average person being
That's
tired,
just the average person.
just being like work, family, kids, whatever, outside
Yep.
noise, whatever, whatever. That sound like a everyday occurrence for.
Every And that's exactly why I'm saying to you that we need to normalize that we have all experienced all of these things at some point on a mild or even a moderate level, right? So after like the inward stuff, then it comes the outward signs. This is how the world knows that you're in distress, because you might be isolating when normally you're out talking with your friends and everything, but now you're at home and you don't want to go out, and people like, what's up with KJ? We haven't seen him in a while. You might have some anger outbursts. You might start abusing substances. Your personality changes. Used to be, a nice guy, and now you're biting people's head off. Things like that. Neglect. How about this? Like, remember, somebody is nice and dressed nice and got the hair cut and face shaved and whatever else, hair done, nails done, and then all of a sudden they're not doing those things anymore. They might be eating too much or eating too little. So those are like the outward signs, our behavioral changes that let us know, and the people around us are starting to, cue in and say something going on with KJ because we haven't seen him, or, you know, he used to be nice, and now he's biting our heads off every time we talk to him. So yes, you're right. Again, these are all things that we probably have all experienced. I was just talking to somebody earlier today, and I was like, I'm a little bit overwhelmed, and so my patience feels a little short because I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. That is normal everyday signs of distress on a mild level. When it starts to get more to the severe and persistent, or even to moderate, going to severe and persistent. It lasts longer than like 2 to 3 weeks. Everything that you're trying to do that normally cheers yourself up, just like I said, you normally, dressing nice and getting your hair cut and things like that. And then you look up and you say, man, I haven't gotten myself together in a while. And then you go get a haircut and put your clothes on and you feel better, right? When that stuff isn't working, you talk to your favorite person on the phone, that doesn't work. You go work out, when that doesn't work, then you definitely are getting to the point where it's like, uh-oh, it's time for me to seek help.
Or the word I keep hearing people and I hear a lot of young people saying this over I'm overstimulated. Like what
Overstimulated.
what is that? Like what?
Yes,
Like
yes.
what? You overstimulate, too much going on in the world. You gotta
Mhm.
that shit. I just be shaking my head like.
And sometimes people just need to like shut down for a little while, and then when you, again, that's how you know where you're okay. Because if you're overstimulated right now, you're feeling overwhelmed, and then you go in your quiet corner and you feel better, then you can come back out into the world. You're fine. You had some mild discomfort, you had some mild distress. But then when it gets to the point where you can't do that anymore, maybe it even starts to impact your work. Now you're getting in trouble at work, you're not showing up to work, you can't get your job done. Maybe it's showing up in relationships, you and your girl or your husband, your wife, whatever. Y'all arguing more, things that didn't used to happen is starting to happen now.
So
Hold on.
who 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 that's the people, that's family.
They're leaving.
Oh, the so how can you? What's the okay? How do I approach somebody when I'm talking to a friend or a loved one to try to check on them and see? Because if you start talking and asking questions, they may get offensive and be like, "What you mean? Ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm good." Like, how do you break that wall down to be like, "Hey, man, you need to be open and open with me. What's going on?" to help them out mentally.
Good question. Because again, going back to that stigma, right? I'm worried that if I tell you that I need help, that you might judge me. So again, we have to normalize that everybody goes through things. Everybody has had some type of mental distress at some point, right? So we have to normalize that and be okay with talking about it. Usually, when you start talking to your friends about it and you like, again, make it normal. Hey, how you doing? I've been there before. Let's do something about it. Let me help you call a friend. Let me help you, let me come visit, things like that. um People do open up eventually, but it does take time, and it takes openness and it takes communication. I think we're getting better, though. We are getting better. I am proud of my caseload. I am proud especially of my Black men who have decided that we don't want to be distressed anymore. We don't want to carry the weight of the world anymore. I need to let some of this off because it is impacting me. It's impacting my relationships. It's impacting my mental health. It's impacting my physical health because,
Well, I
they
was
go
looking at
together.
definitely because the more stress is like if it's a lot of stuff on your shoulders and a lot of stress going on, you just want to come in the house and don't do nothing. You just want to disconnect. You don't want to talk to nobody. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
answer the phone because it's gonna be another. You feel like it's gonna be another problem. It could just be the homie calling to
Mm-hmm.
check on you and say, "Hey, let's go do this. Let's go do that." Um,
Mm-hmm.
I try to call or check on or send a text like, "Hey man, everything good?" Some of all the homies we kind of text each other or whatever in some type of way we communicate with each other just to see what's what. But I
Mm-hmm.
was looking up. It said like in the U.S. depression rate remains high, affecting roughly 40, probably 50 million adults. 18%. Why? Nearly 1 in 10 adults is suffering from some type of mental health or mental health crisis, and that was
Absolutely.
the key global mental health statistics of 2025. So,
And you know
um,
what else? In the last 10 years, that has increased. Mental distress has increased. And it could be for a number of reasons. Like you mentioned, COVID. You know, we got a lot going on in our world. I think we're in a war right now. Like it's a lot going on, you know. So it's a lot for us to be, economy, everything is going up, everything costs more. You can't even go get a car now without paying a mortgage for a car note. We are distressed. We are in distress. just because of our environment.
And that was one of them other things. And like, do you think the social media play a big part in like people's mental health, and
Definitely.
and why you think that is?
1000% yes. You know what? Because before we were contained to reading the newspaper and we had this much information, social media has made it so that we can see in real time what's going on all around the world, and it is overwhelming, and it literally is impacting our mental health to have access to so much information. And then there's just so much pressure. We can't do nothing right. You too big, you too small, you too fat, you too, it's like, it's just, we can't do anything right because on social media it's telling you you're doing everything wrong. So absolutely, social media definitely impacts our mental health. I
Well,
rarely watch the news because I can't handle it. Can't
well,
handle it.
my mom be like, "Hey, I can't watch. It was too much going on to the news that I had to turn it off." And
Yes,
even
yes,
with
I have to protect my mental health.
social media, you stuck to that phone a lot, and a lot of people, you got people that create that have jobs on there, meaning like they create content, they
Mhm.
create this and or just advertise whatever. So they got to be on the phone, stuck to the phone some type of way. But I just know sometimes that social media, I hear people say I had to get unplugged from social media. I had to take a step back
Absolutely,
because
you got to take a break.
it was too much for me to process. Looking at good, bad, or indifference. And one time I had a homeboy call me and we were talking about something, and he said him and his girl was into it, and it was something she seen on Facebook about something, and I was like, man, don't call me talking about nothing that had to do with somebody seeing something on Facebook. I said
Mhm.
if it wasn't, what I'm saying, like if it wasn't right there, it was to me it was just like, okay, you seen something on Facebook, it could have been true, could not have been true, or but don't
Mhm.
get in an argument or divorced over what happens on social media or Facebook. And I was just
Yeah,
like, man, that just leave that shit right where it is on social media platform. Don't
right
get
there.
a breakup because of what's going on social media.
Right.
Don't call me with that.
That people get on social media fronting anyway. They want it to look good, but it ain't good. Cause I know I'm the keeper of all the secrets, right? They come to me and they tell me everything that's going on, and then they get on social media and they booed up and they kissing and hugging. It's fake. It's fake. But so sometimes you do have to limit the amount of time. It has some good and it has some bad and it has some ugly, right? We've been able to connect with people that we haven't seen in years, via social media, and just sharing our lives with people that we can't be around. So it has some good, but you definitely have to limit the time that you're on there because social media definitely it can steal your mental health. It can
So
steal it.
when this goes to mental health illness, is some of mental health illness genetically passed down, or
Oh, absolutely. So there's a couple of different things. Four right off the top of my head. So yes, what you're talking about is biological, which that could be like genetics. It could be like a chemical imbalance in your body for whatever the reason your body is off balance, and the chemicals inside, dopamine, all the things can be off, and you need help to bring it back to balance. There's environmental, just like we just talked about, like the stress, like work stress, grief and loss. We've lost a loved one, and that has impacted us. Our social, like people that don't have a lot of support, social supports, they have a lot of mental distress. There's physical health, right? Like if you have health problems, you think getting a cancer diagnosis won't impact your mental health? Absolutely. Substance abuse, things that we eat and drink, can throw us off and impact our mental health as well. And then there's like trauma. We got these things called ACEs. They're adverse childhood experiences. ACEs. It was a black doctor that invented that. But the more ACEs that you have, the more adverse childhood experiences. And that could be, I live in a bad neighborhood, I witnessed some shooting, I was personally abused or neglect, sexually assaulted. Um, all of those things can impact you now as an adult. It impacted you as a child, but also even as an adult. So there's lots of different, reasons and, ways that we become mentally ill, and our
I'm I'm
support system.
I'm
You
trying to
looking
you
up
you
ACEs?
killed. I'm trying you look. I'm trying to find. ACEs. I'm gonna say it's a black woman mental
Oh
is.
yes,
So what is it? Is ACEs like? I mean,
ACE. Yep, adverse childhood experiences.
and that shit. I think when did she make this? Because I think we've been. If you in the neighborhood, you went through adverse childhood experiences every day.
Absolutely. And you know what her
I
study
think the
says?
most traumatic thing was getting your ass whipped by a switch off a tree that you had to go get.
I think so too. KJ, I'm for real. I think so too. That was we went through some
I'm gonna
traumatic
call and tell my I'm gonna
times.
tell my mama that one. Hey, I went through some aces back in the day. Well, you know, and then you know back
Yep.
in our community, it was like, hey, you got your if you got your ass whooped too bad, they're like, listen, when you go to school, don't-
See,
don't-
you know
or
what
that
else
kid
I'm
didn't go to
thinking?
school the next day or something like that. Like
Right.
it was wild. So that's aces. Oh, wait till I
So
tell my
back in the
mama that one.
day, we used to get whooped at home. At the very, at the very most, like our parent might come to the school and tag us in the bathroom or something like that. Now these people be beating their kids on social media, back to social media, right? So we used to get whooped at home in the privacy of our own houses. Now they are publicly humiliating their children in the name of discipline. And you think your child not gonna be sitting on my couch soon? You see this couch behind me is nice and warmed up and waiting for him.
That's I'm
You
gonna tell mama.
basically bullying your child in public.
Adverse childhood experiences are potential traumatic event occurring before the age 18. I think every
Yep.
kid in the neighborhood has had
In the
that
hood. Let
and
me tell you
PTSD.
something. For all these years, they've been telling us now, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but all these years, they've been telling us that what we eat has been causing our hypertension and all the things, right? Our medical problems. But ACEs is telling us that, like, listen, we are living in heightened alert for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. You think if your heart rate ain't up all the time and your spidey senses tingling, your trauma response is on all the time, that it's not going to wear you out. It's going to wear your kidneys out. It's going to wear your liver out. It's going to wear your lungs out because you are always in a perpetual state of heightened sensitivity. Your trauma response is on all the time when you live in the hood.
I mean, just yeah. If you live in any neighborhood or anywhere,
Yeah.
you could be in a good
Yes.
neighborhood, but you still like, hey, they watching me. You
Cause
still-
baby, in my neighborhood, it ain't too many people that look like me, and
I hear
you
you.
know, they
So,
still harassing.
so what's some treatment options when it comes to like when you get to the mental health illness part?
So, mental illness, KJ, mental health, and
I
then
mean,
mental
mental
illness.
illness, mental illness.
So
What's some of
yes,
the
for
treatment
treatment.
options?
Okay, so there's outpatient and there's inpatient, right? So outpatient is like talk therapy, like what I do, where you would go to a therapist, you might sit down there, some techniques that we use that help people manage their mental health. There's some other type like you can do like exercise and yoga and things like that. All of those things are outpatient treatment types. Medication is also like an outpatient. Even though you go see a doctor, they might prescribe you something, and then that is also considered outpatient. Inpatient is when you might get like hospitalized and you stay in the hospital for a little while and you have a treatment team that is in the hospital that are with you 24/7 administering different types of treatment. So, two options, inpatient or outpatient. Obviously, the inpatient will be for the severe and persistent. And then the talk therapy, it could be like individual, it could be groups, it could be, different types of like psychotherapy. That's outpatient. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, and and I know because of your name, doctor, it goes under the HIPAA law, all that. Has it ever been a scenario you had to talk somebody off the ledge, so to
Oh,
speak?
yeah. Unfortunately, more so when I worked in community mental health, because I worked in community mental health for 7 years. And it was a lot of times where I had to take people to the hospital. I literally had to, like, I would show up and they would be decompensating, which means they have not taken their medications, or their medications aren't working anymore. And then I would get there and they would be doing different things. I had this one guy was standing on the porch and was like threatening to kill everybody that walked by. I had to take him to the hospital. I lured him on in the car and I took him to the hospital. I've had people call me and they feel suicidal. You know, those are definitely things as a mandated reporter that I am mandated to report. I am mandated to get them help. And that is one thing also I want to say. That is another key, a clue that you need help. If you feel like you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, seek help immediately. Go to the hospital, call a crisis line. If you have a therapist, reach out to your therapist. But if you feel like you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, that is immediate. You need to seek help immediately.
I'm glad you brought that up. So how does the crisis line, like how the crisis line works, and how immediate is action taken to come into a house to see if that, oh, to see if that person is actually a hindrance to you and to himself and to you? Because
Oh
let's
yeah.
just say, let's just say, in
Mhm.
Love and Hip Hop, the world of reality TV show,
Yeah.
baby girl get mad at me for whatever she seen on Instagram or whatever she heard. She on the line like, hey, he beating me. He said, well, this, that, and the third. Like, how do they determine what's the real and what's not?
So, well, the only way to know is if you show up, right? So, if somebody is calling me and they're saying, "Hey, my husband, my wife, my whoever is beating on me," I'm gonna call 911 and I'm gonna allow the police or the proper authorities to go over there and sort it out and figure out what's going on. But I also want to note that that is a type of abuse. That is a type of emotional abuse. And if you are in an emotional abusive relationship where someone is doing that to you, you need to get out of that relationship because it's dangerous. It is dangerous to call the police unnecessarily, especially for a black man. You gonna call the police and the police gonna show up. Now what you gonna do, especially if you're lying. So but that's a real thing, but that's also a type of abuse.
So okay, so how quick do the hotline, like once you call them, are they
Oh
immediately
yeah.
at your door? Okay, I don't know.
Oh yeah, they
I'm just
come.
asking.
So and I've had a client that she called the hotline and she has a type of mental illness that we hadn't gotten to yet, but she called a hotline and she said she was going to kill herself and she actually was at work. They showed up at her job. I don't know how they found her. I don't know if she had told them in the past, where I don't know if they traced the line. I don't know. They showed up at her job and took her straight to the hospital. So the
Mm.
police and the ambulance showed up and they took her to the hospital.
Is that, was it
So
like a 24-hour hold or 40? Like, how does that work?
So usually when you go in, and I'm understanding that these hospitals and crisis centers are a little overwhelmed right now. But usually when you go in and you are a threat to yourself or somebody else, it is a mandatory 72-hour hold. They may keep you 24 hours and look for observation and see if you okay and then let you go because they are pretty overwhelmed. Unfortunately, we've had so many like state hospitals and programs that have been cut. Again, our current administration, sometimes they don't consider, the mental wellness of people because for whatever reason. So they've cut a lot of funding, a lot of places have closed. I know the community mental health agency that I used to work at, it was called Development Centers. They've merged with another community mental health agency because their fundings got cut. The only way they was able to survive is if they merged together. So now they're called MySide, MISIDE. So, but usually if you are a threat to yourself or someone else, they take you in. Somebody, if even if you see somebody or hear somebody, it is not your job to decide whether they are telling the truth or not. Call immediately and get them the help that they need. After being locked up in a hospital, if they faking, I bet you they won't fake anymore. But if they're serious, then they get the help that they need.
Well, yeah. And You said we're gonna talk about. You said it's some different type of mental illnesses that you wanted
Oh
to
yes.
share because
Oh
I didn't make a
yes.
mental note. So go ahead.
Okay, so first and foremost, we have these buzzwords that we use in society, right? Everybody's a narcissist, everybody is schizophrenic. There's some words that we use that those are the only ones that we know of, right? This, my friend, is our Bible of disorders. And you see how thick this is? This is called the DSM. Now this one is I have the most recent one of this electronic. So this one is slightly outdated. But this is the DSM-5, and this has over 200 different disorders in it. So, like, I think the people that wrote the doggone DSM don't even remember all the all the ones that's in here because it's so many. But this, you see how thick it is? It's like hundreds of pages, 700 pages long, 800 pages. I shorted it. And it
So
has over
so those
200
are
diagnoses.
those are our mental health disorders.
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is all of our mental health disorders, diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders, and it is over 200 in this DSM. The ones that we probably know about is probably like five good categories that are probably pretty popular, right? So we have the anxiety disorders, which that kind of speaks for itself. Somebody might, be on heightened alert a lot. They, really anxious, maybe some paranoia. We have mood disorders, which that's like depression, bipolar could fit up under there. We have what's next? Psychotic disorders. Psychotic disorders, that would be more like the schizophrenia. But these, I'm just naming one in each category. There's many that goes up under each category. There's personality disorders. That's where the narcissist, you so narcissistic, or borderline personality disorder, that falls up under the personality disorders. And then there's like trauma disorder, like PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. That's what PTSD is. So those are kind of like the more popular, more common, I should call it, disorders, the categories. But each one of them, like for an example, personality disorders, there's 9 different personality disorders. So we hear buzzwords and we just run with them. Not everybody is schizophrenic. There's specific criteria, and that's what this DSM is for, right? We go through and we see I got my little flags because these are the ones that are, pretty popular. And under it just happened to open up to paranoid personality disorders. You have to have so many of these criteria to be able to be diagnosed with this disorder. So you have to have a number of these for so long. It's been happening, you got a history and all that kind of stuff. There's so many different things. So before we start naming off stuff, she's schizophrenic, or he's this and he's that, we got to know all the criteria. We got
So
to.
is any one of those more prevalent in men than it is in women, or is that's still kind of open ended question? I mean, 'cause I remember I
So
asked you that before. Are men
yeah.
more open to or have more issues with I ain't gonna say women. I'm gonna say women. Women are more schizophrenic than men.
So here's the thing. I wouldn't say more or less, but what I will say is they impact us differently, right? So and again, let's don't forget that the severity, right? It could be mild, it could be moderate, it could be severe and persistent. Just like I said, you could be a little bit sick, or you could be a lot sick. You could have a common cold where you got the sniffles and your nose running and you got a little cough, or you can have cancer or COVID or something like that. It's all sick, but it's different severities of sick. I'd rather have a common cold than cancer. Hello?
Right.
So same thing, with our mental disorders. They can be mild, moderate, severe, and persistent. Now, yes, they impact us differently. And then everybody is different. Every body is different. Everybody is different. Every situation is different. So even if you do have schizophrenia, but if you have a lot of support, you might be okay. But if you have schizophrenia and you don't have any support, or you don't have access to the right treatments in the right amount of time and things like that, you can hit severe and persistent very quickly.
So let me ask you this: is there a certain age where mental health really kicks up, opposed to, um, well, at like say if a kid
Yeah,
is like 10 or 12, now they're like 16 or 17 or even 19. Like, is it an age range where it gets worse?
absolutely. That's a great question. So there are some diagnoses. Now remember, it's 200 of them plus 200 plus, but there are some diagnoses that is specific to children. There are some diagnoses that are specific to adults. Kids can be they can be diagnosed with any mental health disorder. They're reluctant to do things under a certain age, usually 17 or 18. But there is possible because nothing is 100% right. But usually when the onset of mental illness is usually like late teens, early 20s. That's when you start to see the change in somebody, especially if they have severe persistent mental illness, especially if they have like maybe the chemical imbalance or the biological factors that I was talking about, like the genetic factors. If it's biological, then it usually starts to happen around late teens, early 20s. You should usually see it in high school, early college age. You know, it becomes prevalent then. And the earlier, just like with many things, the earlier you get treatment, the better the outcome.
So, what's the age range where the parent can't do anything or get help or whatever? It's not, it's going to be on the individual to actually
Right.
to say I'm grown and mature enough to actually get help. Like, what's that is that at 21 or what?
So nope, there are some conditions with this. Okay, so if a child reaches out to me and they're like 16 and they're like, "Hey, I need some help." I can see that child at 16 without parental consent. Now, there are some parameters for I am what they call a licensed professional counselor. Some other, disciplines, some other licenses might be slightly different. But for me, with as a licensed professional counselor, I am allotted a certain amount of times that I can see that person without their parents' consent. So, and I think it's 4 times, and then we either have to end or we have to notify the parent. But 16 is the age where they can call me and they can come to me without, notifying the parent. Now, as far as seeking help, like say for an example, you have a person and you notice that they are showing signs of distress, right? They have behavioral signs of distress. They might be isolating, they might be overeating or undereating, sleeping too much. They may have some personality changes where they used to be nice and sweet and now they're like, raging and maybe even, harmful to themselves or someone else. And you're like, this person needs help, right? So you do all the things, you call all the people and you say, hey, they need help, and then they refuse service. That happens. Unfortunately, because they are of age, they are an adult, they can deny services unless unless they are a threat to themselves or someone else. Then we do something we call it's a petition, where we petition this person to get psychiatric treatment, highly likely in person. But there's different ways that you can help somebody like that. You can apply, for like again a petition. If it's like your child, your adult child, or maybe even a sibling or something like that, you can apply for guardianship. And if you have guardianship, then you have to say so, where you can say this person needs this support, and they have to do it. And the court will order them in whatever way that is, take medication, an injection, or whatever the case, they will be court ordered to participate in treatment.
Mm,
So there's ways around it if that person is, especially if that person is severe and persistent. There's ways around somebody refusing treatment.
mm. It just seems like it's just a hard, like, it's like you gotta make calls and keep paperwork and just to show,
Yeah.
opposed to. But I guess that's just the system. They got to be sure that everything is done right. And like you said, they could be overwhelmed, so they can't just take somebody in just on the whim because you said it.
Yes, sir.
Um,
But you know
and
what? And they have services for that too. So that is another reason why places like community mental health, they're, important agencies in our community, and they are very helpful because they have multiple services where one individual can have multiple people working with them at once. They can have a therapist, they can have a case manager, they can have a psychiatrist, they can have all the things that they need working with that one person to ensure that they're getting all the treatment that they need. Again, some people will reach out and they will do it and it's okay. And then some people need a little push. They need a little help. They need the courts and stuff to say they got to do
do,
it.
do you see more? Do you see more people contact? Can you weed out the people that just want to talk to you, like just want to talk and not have mental issues, and just say, "I just want somebody to talk to."
So, absolutely. Okay. And I'll say this too, because I have a lot of seniors, and a lot of my seniors just want to talk. But why? Because they're lonely. And that is definitely a mental, distress. It's a distressor when you don't have anybody to talk to. And this one particular guy just popped in my head. Um, I love him. Our conversations are great, but I know that he literally just needs some socialization. I have tried to, refer him to other things. Like, why don't you go volunteer? Why don't you go, whatever, the Boys and Girls Club, do something, a travel club, something. And he's just like, meh. He just wants to come. And that's how he, you know, maintains his mental health by his appointments. And he'll come in and we talk about whatever it is that he needs to talk about, and then he goes and he's fine until the next time. So, but treatment can be different things for different reasons for different people too.
Yeah, and the treatment can be like the socialization, and I seen
Yes.
that when my son, when it was COVID, because he was like, it was baseball. We was doing baseball the year before. Like we've been doing baseball traveling, and then all of a sudden it just stopped. He couldn't
Yep.
train. He couldn't get out there with the fellas. Not that it was just him being out in a social environment with the people in front, like just leaving out the house, going to play baseball, being out all weekend, doing that. And then I understood that when he was just downstairs playing the video game. I went down there and talked to him. I said, "Man, I think this is your. I think you're a little mentally, you know what I'm saying, off a little bit. Not just like stress
Mhm.
or having, depressed. I said depressed, not mentally. I said you probably depressed." And he was like, "Yeah." I said, he's like, "Cause like we can't play baseball. We may not even play baseball, but I think a couple of weeks, a month later, they was able to play. But his whole route, I guess, it was like one of them triggers, and this is a trigger to me. I think it was a trigger.
Yes.
His routine was changed. His
Yes.
routine changed. He went from training, being out there practicing with the fellas, playing baseball, to now I'm downstairs in the basement. I'm chilling. We're not doing the same things. He not going to
Right.
practice. He not going to school. This was his first. I think it was his. Yeah, he was his freshman year at West B, and
Mhm.
his routine changed. So that kind of, it was just like he just
Yeah.
downstairs and I was dealing with stuff upstairs. So I came down to talk to him and kicked it with him. I was just like, you're depressed, you're not playing baseball. And he was like, yeah, I think I am. And that's just something, as parents, it's so much noise, stuff going around.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't know if
Mhm.
your kids are, good or mental health. Like my wife asks my son all the time, how are you doing? How's your mental
Mhm.
health? He say good, but
Mhm.
they kids, they boys, he just, I'm good, I'm good. Well, give me a
Yep.
hug. You know what I'm saying? Like that interaction, that hug, that energy, releasing good vibes, and I'm taking some of your vibes to neutralize that was cool. So I just thought, sometimes as parents, we just work, everything else going. Sometimes you just got to stop and be like, "Hey, you good? All right."
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I could be asking him, is he good? Because I ain't good. Because I want him to say, I'm good. Okay, so I'm good. So if you good and you having a good time, I'm fine. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yep.
kind of something.
Mhm.
My little that tidbit.
Absolutely. And that's actually a perfect example of that mild to moderate I was telling you about, that situational depression, COVID had a lot of us locked up and depressed, and we couldn't work, we couldn't go out, we couldn't socialize. And then when the restrictions lifted, so did our depression. We
You
got
mean the
back to
you mean the
some
social
sort of normal.
experiment? Now I'm gonna start
Yeah,
calling it COVID. I'm gonna start calling it a social experiment.
I know. Definitely, it definitely was something, but it definitely showed us a lot of things. Like, if you can't sit down for 3 months, you poor.
Yeah.
If you trying
Um.
to get back to work, it's because you're poor.
Yeah.
you
It
know.
it showed us a lot on
Hmm.
like on this platform we talk a lot about like training, education, all that, and one thing we try to because a lot of I mean we I try to talk to people that's maybe been in some shit and that can talk about it because we always prepare for it. But it's like, man, the mind is a tricky thing, and
It is.
um, to have some mental health or some, I have a well stable mind is the first tool. Like if your mind got to be there, and with today's world, there's so much stuff going on that you know things happen and things get foggy and you may lose yourself
Yep,
and that's one thing
absolutely.
why I was talking to you about it because I was just like, man, if you go to a situation, I guess you said it, like you got to report it. Like if a person has a firearm in the house, and then I don't know if you ever been in a situation where you had to talk to somebody or go to somebody's house and you had to report that. So as soon as you report it, it goes to the police, and like how does that
Yeah.
work?
So obviously, if you already have a mental illness and you've already expressed signs of distress, you can't get a firearm. So this is for people who they were fine, everything was going well, they got a firearm legally, and then something happened. Maybe some traumatic thing happened, or something happened that tilted their mental health, and now they have tipped into mental illness, right? Especially if they are a threat to themselves or someone else, and they're like, I got this gun and I might use it, then absolutely, authorities will be called. They will take the firearm, and if you get it back, it's going to be because you have gone through all of the assessments and things like that. You've seen the proper people that says this person, that was a thing, it's fine, it's over, they're fine, and then a judge
Yeah.
will decide if you can get it back.
Is that a probationary period? Because I don't see you ever getting that back. Once they know that you has had some mental health issues, I doubt if the court allow you to have that your pew
Well,
pew
I don't
back.
know if this is a special condition, but I did have, a vet who, he had a moment, he witnessed something traumatic happen right outside his home, actually. And he couldn't stop it from happening. He felt like he should have been able to stop it from happening, and he couldn't. And he had a mental break, and his firearm was removed from the house. His firearms were removed from the house, and he went through, the VA and the this and the that. He went through all the mental health, checkpoints, and he was able to get his firearm back. Now, again, like I said, I don't know, maybe because it was a special case, because he, was a vet. um
Well, I guess that just shows that the process worked for
yeah,
him, and then
it
he
worked.
got help, and then he was able to
Yeah.
show that he was of sound body and mind to get it back, and they gave it back.
Yes.
So I guess that's
Yes.
a good scenario. Now let me ask you this: for the po folks that can't pay for therapy and all this, what's the resources that they can reach out to
Another
or look?
great Yes, another great question here. So, believe it or not, a lot of our employers have what they call EAP, Employee Assistance Program. Now, some people feel so uncomfortable going to EAP because they feel like they're going to report back to their employer. I accept EAP, which means I am credentialed with these companies that offer this service to employees. And I have never once ever written any type of reports and told anybody anything. I am legally bound to keep your confidence. If I ever have to talk to anybody about you or about your services or about your sessions, I have to get written permission from you. Unless I am mandated by the court. If I'm mandated by the court, you already know about it anyway, right? So I think those that is a great start. If you do not have your own insurance, most people have some type of insurance. Now, Medicaid is tricky. Straight Medicaid does not pay for therapy, but other types of Medicaid and Medicare products they will pay for therapy. Community mental health is another good resource because they do take under and uninsured individuals. But there is help available for any budget. I host interns here. My interns, they are master level clinicians who are working towards being counselors, and they have to have so much practice time. That's what their internship is. They have to have so much practice time before they can graduate and before they can, they are stamped and say this person is a competent, therapist, and they can go out into the world. My interns here see people at significantly discounted rates. I mean, like significantly. I have one person that pays $5. You drink and smoke and buy shoes and all the kind of things. You can afford therapy. Your mental health is far more important than any of the things. You can afford it. You can afford it.
So what I was looking up. I seen they have like AI. I don't know if you into know about. I heard they got AI like therapy therapists. So what do you think about the AI therapists or like online or whatever they got going on there?
So, AI can offer us some good ideas and good advice. Yes, they can. But it's nothing better than interacting with another individual. My preference is in person. However, some people like virtual. That's fine too. But it is nothing better than interacting with an actual person who has feelings and emotions, and I can empathize and sympathize with you. Shoot, I done been cheated on and all the other kind of things. So when you come sit on my couch and talk about it, I can go, girl, me too. AI can't do that. So
AI, you ain't been cheated on yet, my boy.
so it's nothing like just connecting with a person, which is also part of the therapy.
So do you feel like more women more open to you than men? Because they're like, man, I want to sit on this couch and talk to
I used
black
to.
woman
No,
that's
I
gonna want to
used
hear my
to.
problems.
I am so proud of my black men. Yes, 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 yes. Because black men have been breaking that stigma that we talked about, and they have been going to therapy. And I have a good caseload of black men of all ages, from teenage all the way up to my oldest client is 76 years old.
What are you more happier to see, younger ones or older ones? Because to the younger ones, to me, I'll be a little bit depressed. I'm just like, dang, this a young soldier right here. He going through this. He ain't even lived 10. He ain't even 30 years in, 25 years in. Like
I know.
I don't know.
Sometimes that's difficult. It is difficult to sit and talk to people who don't have hope and try to offer them some hope and try to offer them, there's the thing and then there's life, and the thing will end. You got to keep living in order for the thing to end. But I also, my older crowd, my seniors, they got a special place in my heart because I'm learning life lessons from them. They coming to me and they're telling me about their stories, and some pretty tragic and traumatic stories. The oldest client I ever had was 86 years old. She was a sweetheart. And so, like, I learned a lot from my seniors, but also at the same time, it's my pleasure to help them when they're like, look, I done lived in this long enough. It is time for me to do something different so that I can live the rest of my days. And as a matter of fact, that's what the lady told me, my oldest client. She said, I'd rather be dead than crazy. And since I ain't dead, I don't want to be crazy. I will never forget her saying that to me.
So she only gonna be two one thing at once, not two at the same time, right?
Yep. Yep. And she did a lot of things before she left this earth. And I was happy to walk her through that. So
So
it's a
so
toss
I,
up though.
I mean I guess yeah. I just seem like these babies just going through it at a young
Yeah,
age, opposed
they are.
to uh opposed to somebody at 86. You like, you've been going through it this long and you ain't reached out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, dang, you ain't got that. You ain't got no more
And see,
sunsets.
and that's why it's a toss up, right? Because yeah, I guess I feel like no matter when you decide, it's the right time. You know what I'm saying? Because whether you're young and you still got some life, or whether you feel like you made some mistakes, but you want to end on a good note. And I feel like no matter what time is a good time. But to your point though, KJ, you're right. I do feel like really bad because I know when I was a kid, I had some distressing moments. I had some things that I felt like, it was difficult. I had, I felt depressed sometimes when I was a kid as well. But the things that these kids are going through nowadays, it is blowing my mind. I just recently learned of a little girl, 13 years old. She took her life a couple weeks ago. And it's like at 13, it is distressing to me to think that a 13-year-old has no hope at 13 years old. And it's just our kids, they have some mental distress and we need to
Well,
be able to recognize it.
and that's one reason why I wanted to talk to you out and put it out there in the world, because it's not, it's gonna forever be out there. Because maybe the parents didn't know how to, one, maybe the parents not educated enough and know how to handle the situation, or
Yes.
to, um like, we put people put barriers up when they feel uncomfortable. If I don't want to talk about something, or I feel uncomfortable, I may laugh. You know what I'm saying? Like, people have different mechanisms
Oh
to
yeah.
kind of spin off the conversation, or to not show I'm sick or whatever. Maybe the parents didn't know how to check out the signs, right? And that's why I was like,
Absolutely.
what are some signs of depression? What are some signs of mental health illness? And you went from mental health to mental health illness, like, it's a switch, right? So what are some signs that we miss, right? Or we
Right.
can miss or pick up on? And maybe that was some
Hmm.
signs that she didn't pick up on. But then another thing we were talking about is, what's some resources, like, where you can go to get help, and what's the hotline number, what's this, what's that. And that's why like I said, I wanted to talk, because I just felt like it's opening up more. Like you said, you see more people want to sit on the couch with you and talk. But to say that happened at a 13-year-old that didn't
Yeah.
have hope, she must have been going through that ace. She must have had some hell of a situations going on, where she felt like her
Yeah.
leaving here was better than her being here, and that's
And you
bad.
know what? And I just really need people to understand that it's not because the rest of us are grieving you. We are hurting for you, and there is help. There is some support for you to help you because sometimes people don't know where that line ends, the thing and life, and that line gets blurred and they're not able to see the difference. Let somebody help you see the difference between the thing that is hurting you and life itself. But to your point, I want to say something to the parents because I have grown people that come to me and they disclose to me for the very first time something that happened to them in childhood and nobody ever knew. They never told anybody. They never, for all intents and purposes, showed any signs or symptoms that we know of. Sometimes we think kids are just acting out or they do have a change in behavior, but we just say, oh, they're a teenager or they're whatever, and we kind of dismiss it. So, but parents, they don't always know. So I want to release them of that, the feeling. Sometimes parents are feel guilty because they feel like they should have, could have, would have, and we're not gonna do that. I'm telling you, grown people disclose to me things that happened to them in childhood that they never told anybody. So sometimes we just don't know, and we can't be everywhere all the time. We can't. You cannot be with somebody 24/7. You cannot. So sometimes we
Well,
got to give ourselves a little grace with that too.
so I guess one of the topics of the conversation was like the quiet burnout, and that's
Yes.
something I just learned. Like, that's a trending word or something real, and I didn't know what that was. I'm like, the quiet burn. I mean, I know understood what the words meant, but to actually see
Mhm.
somebody, that's the quiet burnout would be somebody functionally come. You seeing them every day, they saying
Yep.
hi to you, they speaking to you, but inside they go home, and it just it's a wrap. It's
And they are stressed.
Yeah,
They are
quiet burn.
stressed. Yes.
I had a supervisor at work. She was gone for a minute, like a
Hmm.
hell of a minute. And I was like, "Dang, boo, where you been at?" She was like, "Hey, I needed a mental break because these people was getting on my nerves." I was like, "Hey, I get it."
And
Um,
that
but you
is
gotta
also a real thing.
and like I said, everybody should have some type of release or something they can get
Yes.
into, either running, exercising, doing whatever, something that they can release stress in a positive way or not bad, or go to the gym, box, whatever. You need a release. I feel that's you need some time to yourself and find something that you want to do, that you love doing or passionate about outside of everyday life to give you that break. So that's
Yes.
just.
I call myself the self-care queen. You ask any of my clients, anybody I supervise, all of the people, I always 100% of the time ask them, what's your self-care this week? What's your self-care for over the next couple of weeks, over the next month? Because self-care is so important. It helps us prevent these burnouts, right? Because you got something planned for later on, you got something planned for tonight, whatever it is, because a lot of times, especially us, we have been taught that that's selfish. When you take care of yourself, it's selfish, especially mothers, parents in general, but mothers, especially mothers. We give our 100% to our kids, and when we do something, we got the weight of the world. She got her nails done and her kids hair ain't combed. It's like we have to do things for ourselves because we have to be balanced in order to be able to take care of everybody else, right? You have to take care of yourself. You have to. So self-care is the number one thing. I'm always pushing it. I try my best to do have self-care myself. That's why you always tell me, I see you at all the games. I try my best to get away when I can, and I do what I love. I love sports. So that's what I like to do. If I gotta go somewhere else to go to a game or whatever the case, so I can de-stress and just, see some different things for a minute before I come back to it, then that's what I'm gonna do. But I think self-care is the number one thing that is gonna help us maintain our mental health and not tip so much. Some things we can't, it's nothing we can do about the economy. It's nothing we can do about, certain things. Nothing we can do about death. Death happens, right? So sometimes our mental illness happens for things that is not of our, it's not of our doing. But as we can do the best we can to maintain our mental health. I'm all for it.
So I think you did say that. So you think the number one trigger in most people's lives is the loss of life, like losing a loved one.
Number one, I don't know about number one, but it's definitely a thing for sure. Because
Mm,
now you are adjusting to something that you don't want to adjust to, right? Like we don't plan. We know logically that death is a part of life, right? We know that everybody gonna die at some point. You know that logically, but when death comes to your doorstep and you have to deal with the emotional distress and you have to deal with the pain of grief, go through all those stages of anger and the shoulda, woulda, couldas, and the depression and the sadness and all the things, all the stages that you have to go through while you're grieving, all that logic go out the window.
mm.
When you're grieving someone, it's a process for sure.
So we can wrap it up. What are some where are some resources, if you have, like, where are some resources they can reach out to? You can put yourself in there and all that, like websites or hotlines or something, when people say, okay, well, I don't know where to go, who to turn to, or where to ask, right? Like what are some of those?
Absolutely. So, if you have insurance, you can contact your insurance company and you can say, hey, I need a therapist. They will give you a list or show you where you can get a list of people that your insurance company will reimburse for services. Obviously, community mental health. We can, share that. It's a 1-800 number. You can call it 24/7. For here is Detroit Wayne Integrated Health. It's called DWIN for short. Health network. That's what it is. But we can, post that for people to see. Of course, I myself, I am a mental health therapist. I have a whole team. I also know other mental health therapists. So if I can't take you, I can refer you to other people, other agencies. But there is help available, and even when you call like community mental health agencies, they can also refer you to other people too. Reach out to your job. I know again, some people are a little leery about that. They don't. The stigma keeps them in fear and they can't reach out. But your job is paying for you to go see a mental health therapist. They'll give you a certain number, somewhere between 7 and 10 sessions that you can go for free. Your job will pay for it. Your school, some of the colleges and universities, they will pay. They have EAP or they have counselors and therapists at the schools. So there is help. Again, so like I said, I host interns, but like Wayne State University, for an example, they have a counseling center because they have a counseling program there. And again, counselors need the experience in order to be able to graduate. So they have a whole counseling center there that you can go to for low cost, no cost therapy. There's
So
lots of different resources.
so where will one go to if they're not from Michigan, or like websites? Just go to just look up mental health resources, and
So, yep, you can. I love NAMI. I told you NAMI, NAMI. Um, and I love them. They have you know, um, each state has their own, but that they are a national, organization that talks about mental health and they can direct you, they can give you referrals and resources. But NAMI Michigan, because we're here, but NAMI is national. They have all different type of resources. There's also other types of mental health services too, like we didn't really talk about, like substance abuse, things like that, like substance abuse and alcohol abuse. We've everybody heard of AA and NA, right? They have those that are free resources, but also they have one that's called Celebrate Recovery, which is more of a faith-based type of addictions recovery. So there's lots of resources. Yes, you can do a Google search. You can do 988, which is the crisis hotline. 988, you can call that from any phone. 988, and they can give you referrals and resources as well. So the help is there. You just have to do it. And I want to say again, we are trying to break the stigma. However, it is so important for me to say that all of your services are completely confidential. Nobody will ever have to know that you're receiving services from anybody, but specifically from like myself, a therapist or something like that. Nobody has to ever know. Even if you decide to take medication, they have injections now where you won't even have pill bottles laying around. Nobody has to know that you're receiving treatment. So it is completely confidential. And
but you
although I'm
but
sorry,
but you can't you don't so you can't write prescriptions, right? So let's
me,
get that.
no.
Okay.
You would have to go to a psychiatrist, which I also, or psychiatrist, or a nurse practitioner, or a psychologist. They can prescribe medicine. Now, a psychiatrist is a medical doctor who specializes in mental health. A nurse practitioner is also, they call DNP. So she's a doctor of nurse practitioner. They can also prescribe medication, and a psychologist can prescribe medication. I also have resources for those too. I have doctors, I have psychologists, I have DNPs on my resource list with people I refer to all the time. Any type of, sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to take medication. That's cool. I have a DNP who is holistic, and so she tries to do other things like vitamins and things like that to get your system get the balance back, the chemical balance back in your body. So, but there's all different type of resources. You don't know if you don't ask. So if you just make that one call, it's confidential, and you can ask the questions that you need to ask, and then you can choose whatever you think is best for you or for your family member.
I didn't. You said they don't have to be a pill bottle. They can just take the straight injections. So
Yep. They can. They have an injection. It's the one that just popped in my head is called Invega, but they have lots of them, and you can get it. They have some that are like monthly. You can go every 3 months. Like they have all different types. You just go pop your shirt up, bloop. They hit you in the hip, and you go on about your business. You don't come back to your next shot.
Mm.
Nobody ever has to know. But the thing about it is, we want you healthy, but also we want our community safe, right? We have a lot of people who, you know, they are emotionally unbalanced, and they make it unsafe for all of us. We want to be safe. So
Well, yeah, and I just seen it seems to me sometimes it's hard to say that I'm sick and a mental at
yes.
my mental is off and I'm sick and I need help. Especially a man,
Hmm.
it could be too prideful. Like I don't, I shake it off. It's whatever, you know what I'm saying. But to a point where you
Hmm.
want to like actually do harm to your body or someone, you harmful to yourself and others, is a big step. But I just
Hmm.
know people. It's hard to, what I'm saying, say that I need help, and
So,
especially
what my
that.
challenge for you and anybody, whoever, just try it. It's no hard. You don't sign a contract that say gonna come here 25 times. Try it. If you don't like it, then you don't ever have to go again. But I guarantee that if you find, because rapport is good, if you find that therapist that you have a connection with, you'll be fine.
So, and I was trying to end it, but we kept finding. How important is finding the right therapist to
Yes,
fit your needs or fit your, I ain't gonna say vibe or fit your personality or what's that like? Like how does that
all of
that
that.
work?
Rapport is important. If you don't have a good rapport with your person, it's not going to work. Because if you don't like me, I don't like you, or whatever the case is, it's not going to work. You're not going to sit there and tell me the things that I need to know in order to be able to treat you.
So you're
So
not just gonna take
definitely,
my money. So basically you're just not gonna take my money just because I say,
no.
hey, you got another client.
Absolutely not. I will refer you in a second because first of all, my goal is to put mentally healthy people back out in this world. And if I'm not the one that can help you do that, I am not offended. I tell people that all the time. I'm not offended. Everybody don't like me. I don't like everybody else, so I don't expect everybody to like me. But if I can help you find the person that that you do vibe with, absolutely. To your other point though, there are therapists who have specialties. So somebody might be trauma, or they might be grief, or they might specialize in eating disorders or personality disorders. So sometimes you do have to find out like what's going on with you, and sometimes I do that too. Like I'll have a person, and we're trying to figure out what's going on with them, and then I find out that they have a personality disorder. Let's say borderline personality disorder. That deserves a special type of treatment, DBT. I will refer them to a DBT therapist. So to make sure that they get the treatment that they need. I don't just keep people on my caseload just to keep them. Listen, it's enough. I eat well that I don't have to keep people that don't, that I can't help.
Well, I mean,
So,
you want to fit like you said, you want to fit the right person with the right therapist, and you want to get them the help
absolutely.
they need it.
Yes,
You're just there to be the facilitator. Like if I can help you, I'm cool. But if I can't help you, and I see that it's a specific situation, then I'm gonna refer you to somebody else. I mean, shit.
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
that's why you winning. I mean, that's a great way to do it because first impressions is everything. If I come to you and I felt
Yes,
like we not vibing or whatever, well, that's the first impression. But it's like the second, third one, you probably figure out once somebody start opening up. But to
yes,
know that and say, okay, well, let me refer you to this person because I think this person will help you better. I think that's definitely dope.
yes,
So we did that. Okay, so if everybody's on here, once I post it, I will have all the information posted on the descriptions and I
yes.
mean in the comment area. And if you want to reach out or whatever, she has a business. She's open. Like I guess she do Zoom meetings and all that, and she can get you squared away. And this is why I did it just to get some information out there. Because once we post it up, it's always out there. So if somebody need it or want to listen or get some have questions or what I'm saying, just want to listen to how it actually works because they don't know because they could be scared to go in there and even talk to you So hopefully this helps them break the ice when it comes to that
I hope
scenario. You know
so.
what I'm saying? So
I hope so.
that was the plan. So the last question: what
Okay.
what what made you do this? I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like me and her got a long history. So I didn't see this. What pushed you to like I wanted to do this?
Honest to God, KJ, divine intervention. I didn't see it for myself either. So, and I tell this story all the time. I ran into Hilliard Hampton. I don't even know if you remember him. He was 97. And I bumped into him one day and he told me that he graduated from this school called Spring Arbor. I was like, what's that? And I looked it up and I had so many credits. I went and finished my degree because Hilliard told me about the school. And then when I was there, it was another young lady that told me about the counseling program. And I'm like, really? So I did it and I loved it. I remember when I was in school, we were getting ready for our internship, and the professor said, when you get in that room and close that door, you're gonna be so nervous. And I promise you, I closed the door and I was like, what up though? I felt so comfortable. I felt so like this is it. So, but I never would have, done that if it hadn't been for those two interactions with Hilliard. And then the other young lady, her name is Kelly. Kelly was the one that encouraged me to go, to the counseling program. But I loved it, and it just was a fit. And I love what I do. I love helping people. I love the connections that I make with people. But most importantly, I love seeing people come in one way and leave another way. I have a sign above my door when you leave out. It says "Go be great," and I love it. I love it. Go be
You just want
great.
you was trying to be everybody mama. That's all the hell you was trying to do. Trying to be everybody mama. She was grown when we was young. Shit.
That's hilarious because Sam used to say the same thing.
Like when we was young, you was grown. Shit.
That
Um,
is hilarious.
I mean, yeah,
Wow.
because you was like you was in high school you
That
know what I'm
part.
saying? That part.
That
So it's
part.
like hey, that's somebody's mama.
That's
Damn, she
somebody
said
mama for real.
that's somebody's mama for real. Like she got a different mindset
that,
on life. She should just
that
she's
part.
somebody's mama for real. But
Yep.
I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Thanks for
Appreciate you.
having me.
Um, hopefully, you know what I'm saying. You when you sit down and think about it, you be like, KJ, you gotta take this out. We did this. You gotta take that out. Hopefully, you we ain't mess you up later on. You know, somebody say, hey, she said too much about this, that, and the third. Um,
No, I told
so
you when you called me, you said we'll be 30 minutes. I'm like, we could go for a week talking about this.
well, I say 30 minutes because yeah. I when I said it, I was like, okay, 30 minutes. But you start talking, it's organic, and there's questions pop up, and then like I say, hey, we can end it. Then it's like, okay, what's another question that popped up? Like, hey, do
Yep.
do all people fit with everybody? Yada yada yada. Relationship, you know what I'm saying? That type of situation, and it was just more conversations or questions that popped up. So it is what it is. Like I said,
Trust and
I'm
believe.
glad.
But if you have any other questions, call me, text me, email me, whatever. I got you.
Hey, you forever like you. Hey, everybody need a doctor feel or somebody on the show. So if I ever, you know what I'm saying, I got a topic or something pop off, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna bring my doctor on. I'm gonna call her. So if I call
I
you, you
got
may be live on the show. You might have to answer this question, like Doctor Phil or something like that. So we go. You know what
I
I'm
got
saying. You got me. All right. So that's it. Like I said, give me 1 second.
Go practice some good self-care this weekend.
that's that's the note of the day. Well, I'll do that on the weekends, and she be like, "You doing that? You doing too much self care?" But that's me going out with the homies, and we do what we do. So give me 1 second. Mm. All right, everybody. Um, that was just another episode of the Pop Culture Podcast. And like I said, I wanted to kind of switch gears on this topic because we talk about training, we talk about guns, we talk about all this, and being prepared, mindset, and all that. But what's your mental health like? What you vibing like? If you need help, are you scared to go and open up and talk to somebody about it? And you hear this all the time. Somebody go check on your family members. Go check on them. Give your homie a call. Go check their mental health. So we all need help, and I hope that this episode of the Pop Culture Podcast helped you understand that. And if it did, please smash that like and subscribe button at the bottom. But like we always say, man, game recognize game. We recognize you. So please recognize us. And I'm out. Peace.
You ain't never seen a podcast that go this hard to pop culture 223. You can't see me, can't see me. Pop culture